So, Rodrigo, tell me how you got into doing adaptable yoga from your injury to where you are now. You do some wonderful things online. So, tell me more about how you got into that.
I used to do Bikram yoga before my accident, was the hot yoga. Hot yoga it's like 26 postures done twice, 1 hour and a half inside like a heated room. It's a very physical practice. And I remember that, I used to go to this practice and my skin used to be really red. I used to sweat a lot. The white of my eye used to be whiter, it was very detoxifying, physically speaking. So I knew that yoga was something very, beneficial for your body. So after my accident, I think it was like 2 weeks afterwards, like 15 days, I was in my rehabilitation bed, and I had a lot of spasticity, and pain. And then I asked my physiotherapist, Anna. I told her, Anna, can you give me something for my pain or for my spasticity? And then she said to me, I remember she said, Rodrigo, you had enough of drugs for today, but I'm going to show you a stretch that you can do in bed. It's going to be harder for you at the beginning, but you can do it. And then she helped me to pull my knee, towards my chest and hold it and breathe into it. And once she did that, I remember the Bikram times, you know, pre-accident, my middle 20s, because like this is a Bikram yoga posture that I used to do before. And then I told her, Anna, this is yoga. You were teaching me yoga. And then she laughed and then she left the room. And then she said, I don't know if it's yoga, Rodrigo, but it's going to help you. Once she left the room, I took my computer that was beside my bed, and then I typed like yoga for paraplegics or wheelchair yoga, I don't remember, because I knew how yoga was beneficial for the body. And then I thought, wow, if I can incorporate adaptive yoga to my rehabilitation process, I will be walking in 2 months, and then I am off to Nepal. I got in touch, like the first Google page show up like a teacher. Funnily enough, he also has a spinal cord injury, and his level of injury is T4, very similar to mine. His name is Matthew Sanford, and he has a non-profit called Mind Body Solutions. I got in touch with them straight away. I told them, listen, folks, I fell. I am going through this. It's not very pleasant when I am at the time, but it's like, I don't know yoga before. Can you please help? And they were very lovely to me. They sent me books, they sent me a DVD, and then I start incorporating adaptive yoga into my rehabilitation process straight away.
Amazing.
I took like mindfulness and adaptive yoga very seriously, you know, and like I came back to life, Fred. Let's say in about 6 months. In 6 months, I was living by myself. I relearned how to drive. I took my driving license again. In about 1 year, I had a job. I was working.
Amazing.
And like, I remember that I went to buy a car, and the car seller was trying to sell me a wagon,
Oh, yeah.
like because I have a wheelchair. And then I went and bought a Mini Cooper. I say, no, I want a Mini Cooper. And I was like, are you sure? He said, yes, I'm sure. And then I went back to my rehabilitation center driving this car, and then my rehab instructor, and that was like 8 months after my accident or something. And then my rehab instructor looked at me and said, Rodrigo, what's going on here? What is this? And then I'm like, life goes on. I joke with him, right? And then he invite me for a conversation, which in Sweden we call fika, to have a coffee, something sweet, and then talk. And then I went to his office afterwards, and then he explained to me, he said, like, Rodrigo, in Sweden, between 150 and 170 people has spinal cord injury every year, and some of them, they take a long time to come back to life, and some of them, they never come back. Actually, there's a lot of people that end up killing themselves, and I don't know if you're aware of it. In Sweden, the suicide rate it's very high already.
Mm.
I'm amazed for what you have achieved in such a small amount of time. I would love for you to consider to become a rehab instructor.
Oh wow,
I think
nice.
I think you're going to help a lot of people. So we had this conversation, and then I went home, and then I applied to work as a for the builder, as they call it, which is a mentor, and the biggest rehabilitation nonprofit in Sweden for spinal cord injury, a place called Active Rehabilitating, is the biggest in Scandinavia. We organize camps, and we treat like we inspire newly injured folks. Folks has gone through injury for 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. They come to us, they stay with us like for 10 days, 15 days, depending on the camp. And then we had like lectures on traveling, or power, bladder, sexuality, everything. You know, it's this massive place. There is like a Olympic swimming pool. We teach them how to swim. There is a beach. We go to the beach with them. We go to the city. We teach them everything they need, basically. And in my role, I was supposed to teach them how to move, right? How to get a better condition. So I was teaching them cardio. I was teaching
Mm.
them boxing.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
shit at it, but I was teaching it. And I was also teaching them how to go around this trail that was like five kilometers. And one of these occasions, like I went off on the trail like with like 6 or 7 wheelchair users, and then one of them complained to me that they were fatigued, they were tired, and then I was like, "Why are you so tired, Matthias? It's in the morning. We just had breakfast." And then he is like, I'm tired because of Baklofen. Baklofen is the muscle relaxant that we take against spasticity, right?
Hmm.
And the problem is Baklofen doesn't just like relax your muscle legs, relax all the muscles, so you become really fatigued. Anyway, I told him, go back to the camp, stay there, but remind me in the afternoon to show you some yoga stretches because I think that will help you, that will decrease your baclofen intake, and you might have more energy after that. I'm not saying that you might ditch the baclofen, but you might decrease it. I ditched everything. I don't take any drugs anymore. Anyway, he went
Nice.
back. He went back. And in the afternoon, I had like half of the camp want to know which stretch was that.
Amazing.
And yeah, and I wasn't certified or anything, but I remember that I told like the physiotherapy students, we had like eight physiotherapy students, and then I asked them to lie down some futons, those thick futons on the floor, that I would like take the quadriplegics and put on these futons, and I would keep the paraplegics on the chair, and then I would teach them adaptive yoga.
Mm.
I remember that they look at me, come on, you're gonna teach them yoga? I said, yes, I will. And I taught out of like my embodied experience. I didn't had a course or anything. It was like something that I did for myself. It worked. I'm gonna do it for you. And Fred was one of the most beautiful experience I've had in my life.
That's incredible.
I started the class with like a guided, breathing anchor meditation where I switched down the volume of everyone's distractions. Everyone came down.
Mm.
I could feel this amount of tremendous amount of grief in the room. Everything went quiet. You know, we start moving. I start giving like cues, for both of them on the population in the floor, on the population on the chair. I finished the class with like a guided meditation on gratitude. We put them back on the chairs, and that was it. People came to me after the class, Fred. There's like Rodrigo, especially like one woman that held Fred. She fell from a horse. She's my friend today. She came to me and said, Rodrigo, that was the first time he re-inhabitate my body safely since my accident.
That
Fred, when
sounds
she
incredible.
told Fred, when she told me that, like, I wanted to crack crying in front of her, but I didn't. I was shy. So I was saying, okay, that's pretty nice. Thanks very much for letting me know. I went to the toilet and I start crying over there. I look at the mirror. I was like crying like a baby because I was like 36 or 37 at the time. And before that, Fred, I used to make people dance and I used to make people drunk, but I never had the opportunity to make someone feel bad in the body they live in. You
Mm,
know, that was a gift.
yeah.
I told myself I cannot turn my back to what has been given to me. This is a gift. So I got him back. I got back home, and then I called my mother, and then I called Matthew Sanford, and then I start educating myself to be a yoga teacher.
Mm.
I told myself,
That's
Rodrigo,
amazing.
you need to be a yoga teacher. You need to be a yoga teacher because that is something that no one knows, Fred. That yoga is for everyone.
Mm.
And the social model, they treat the human body like a mechanic treats a car. We don't have access to this holistic practice. We don't have access to this compassionate way of bringing ourselves to our bodies. you know they
Mm.
just want to fix us. They want to give us drugs. I don't blame them. Some of them work, but it's like, we need to see the human behind the diagnosis. We need to take a more holistic approach. And yoga does that. Yoga has the answers.
Yeah.
Yoga brings you back to your body. And in a way that's like you're going to fall in love with your broken part of yourselves as well. You know and it's not yet accessible to folks. So it's like, I also felt this huge sense of responsibility. Somehow it happens. It helped me. It's like it might help other people as well. And why there is no one talking about it? So like I educated myself. I'm still in the education process because once you dive into yoga, you're forever a student. I'm like trying to make this practice more accessible to this population nowadays. And I am like about to start writing a book about it as well. You know.
That sounds so incredible. Thanks so much for sharing that story, man. That sounded really wonderful. I was feeling it when you were telling it, and I didn't realize how much yoga could help people. Like, I actually had a pretty decent yoga practice before my injury. I used to do yoga a lot. I discovered it. I first did it in America, and then I used to live in New Zealand. There was a great studio. I used to do it, and I did it here in Morzine. I used to do it every morning when I woke up. A few stretches, and I used to go to classes. But since my injury, I've neglected it. I still do stretching exercises. I still do deep breathing. I do meditate, probably less than I used to. I do stretches in my standing frame, but the way you're describing it is the feeling that I missed, like from yoga. Like when I had some incredible yoga classes before, and I've had experiences like that. Not quite as special as that, but the feeling of peace that comes over
Yeah.
you after a yoga class. I miss that, man. So I really feel like I want to be part of your classes. I really want to incorporate that into my daily routine.
Yeah.
And on that subject, I'd love to ask you, like, do you have a morning routine? What does a day in the life of Rodrigo look like?
Yeah. Just going back to what you mentioned, you know, there is a lot of cultural appropriation and the Western way of yoga is presented to us. We think yoga is physical, yoga is stretching. I was thinking about it too before my accident, but yoga is much more than that. Do you remember that I told you that when you experience trauma, the only way out is going through it,
Mm,
right? So it's like yoga basically is any movement that you do consciously, is being in your body, Fred. You know, so
mm,
yoga is accessible to everyone. You can practice yoga just moving your eyes if you're conscious about it. And that bringing yourself back, align your mind, your spirit, your true self, or what they call them atman or purusha. I prefer call it love. Some people call it gods, divinity. connecting that, the union of that, you being present with what you truly are, that is yoga. So it's like yoga is much deeper than what we are learning out in the West. So it's like, it's like the yoga that I'm talking about now, post-injury yoga, the yoga for the soul, is the yoga that will bring yourself back to your body, and there is a lot of trauma there. Because like once we experience like a spinal cord injury, one thing that nobody tells us is that our body is not something welcoming anymore. you know your body reminds you the things that you can no longer do, right? Or you have chronic pain, or you have spasticity, or you have anxiety. So you are always distracting yourself, especially with the drugs that they give it to us, like with cognitive side effects. Like you hardly ever in your body after an accident, after a trauma, after spinal cord injury. Yoga is a tool to bring yourself back to your body, you know. And I was coming back to my body 1 hour every day while I was practicing, and sometimes I cried because the grief was too much. But sometimes I was like, hang on a minute, yeah, there is grief here, but what else is here? Yeah. You're not just made of grief, my friend. There is a lot of things over here. Let's pay attention to them. Yes, I've got nerve pain in my butt right now, but hang on a minute. There is a lot of parts in my body that I don't feel anything. And it can be actually, can we switch a little bit? So it's like, this sense of self-care, self-compassion, self-love, yoga has the power to give this back to you, and it does that, making you like, inhabitate your body again and observe everything, observe how you feel, observe the emotions you are feeling. You can do that through movement. You can do that through breath. You can do that through self-reflection, through singing, through mantra. There is several ways you can come back to yourself, come back to your body, and be conscious and be present. And yoga offers you so many tools to do that. And that is the way I teach yoga nowadays. And coming back to your second question, I would say that like I don't practice yoga 1 hour a day. I live yoga.
That's a great answer. I like it.
I'm like practicing yoga all the time because I deal with like chronic pain, neuropathic pain. I wish neuropathic pain was a name of a band, but it's like it's not pleasant. And I wake up in the morning, I do like, before I even jump to my wheelchair, I wake up really stiff. So I lie myself in the prone position, I put my bum in the air, and then I try to stretch my hip flexors, get into Cobra. I stay there for like 10 minutes. I come back, I turn around, I open my hips, recline butterfly, I do some movements with my quads, with my lower back. Do it there, 15, 20 minutes yoga practice. I jump in my chair. Do the bathroom work, have a shower, clean the house, breakfast, do some work. After 3 hours sitting in my wheelchair, I starting to feel like stiff. What I do, I open my spine and all the movements I can do in my wheelchair, back bends, forward bends, right? I do like a cheeky, like 15 minutes practice throughout the day. That's like, I feel stiff. Okay, Rodrigo. It's like, because you have nurtured that body awareness, that sense awareness. You're never going to hit a wall. Hang on a minute. Like, I know that I need to move now. You move, right? Then you have lunch. That is my non-negotiable. After lunch, you go to bed again. Another cheeky 30 minutes yoga nidra. Sometimes it becomes a nap. Fucking, I don't mind. We have a nap. Wake up. Back to work. I work 2 more hours. Feel stiff again. And my days, like, it's divided by self-care, self-love, work, self-care, self-love, work, self-care, self-love, work. It's spread out. And it's like, this is the way I can see that it works for me without taking any drugs, any morphine, any gabapentin, any Lyrica, any Baklofen, you name it, man. I have tried from Jesus Christ to marijuana, everything for my nerve pain, nothing worked. So it's
Yeah.
like, like this way that I live works.
Yeah.
You make pace. You take care of yourself, Fred, in the best way you can. You know, you be kind to yourself. You being kind. You have love towards yourself. You know when to stop. You know when to put the bomb in the air.
Yeah. I
And
love
that's
that.
okay. Yeah,
I
and
love
that's
that,
okay,
man. It
man.
sounds like such a fantastic balance. I
Yeah,
wish I had. I wish I had more of that. Actually, I can relate to some of it. Like I wake up and every morning I stretch because I think it's a non-negotiable. I can't really even physically get out of bed and get in my wheelchair without stretching. I
yeah,
sometimes look at people without spasticity and I think, holy shit, that's the dream, man. Like I could deal with the paralysis as long as, I didn't have the rigidity, like some people just have flaccid limbs and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I
yeah,
could be so mobile if that happened. But unfortunately, I have like very rigid limbs, especially in the mornings, certain times of day. And I know my body tells me when I need to stretch and when I
yeah,
need to get in the standing frame. And I do the similar things that what you describe, but sometimes I don't know. Like I think it's kind of natural, and I'm a little bit ashamed to say it, but I'm kind of lazy sometimes. Like I just want to, oh, for God's sake, like, I wish my spasms would just relax. I don't really want to have to go and stretch right now.
yeah,
But the way that you're expressing that is, it's not a chore, but it's actually
no,
a
yeah.
gift, like, why don't we
It's a
go and,
gift.
self care, self love,
Yeah,
like take it, put down your
yeah,
phone, stop
yeah,
doom
yeah,
scrolling and take a good stretch.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's great, man. I do like a good stretch. On the subject of baclofen, I actually take 120 milligrams a day, which is a little bit high. But it seems to
It's
work
really
for me.
hard.
Like, um,
Mm.
I don't get any of the fatigue or the drowsiness that are common symptoms that people do complain about. So I'm pretty happy that I don't have those side effects. However, yeah, maybe I could stretch more for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do too much stretching, and I'm definitely interested in taking some of your yoga classes so I could find a way of relaxing myself. Because definitely after a deep stretching session, my
Mm.
legs are very very relaxed, and my
Yeah.
life it's just easy. Life is more manageable when you're not
Yeah,
wrestling with your limbs.
exactly. And also, that is the physical part of it. But like, if you have a yoga nidra, for example, like that I do after lunch, like you kind of reboot your whole nervous system, Fred. You like brand new afterwards,
Mm.
right? It's like all the thoughts, all the angst, like, you kind of like, you know start feeling like the little wings again.
Mm.
So we always need to come back to that place where we can recharge ourselves. you
Mm.
know we are not trained to take care of ourselves, Fred. We're not trained to, we are trained because we live in this beautiful, amazing capitalist society.
Mm.
We are trained to produce and consume. Like, for you to stop, and disconnect and be with yourself is like, it's something that is very challenging for everybody to do, not just folks who has gone through trauma and disability like us, but especially for us. The self-care, the self-love, the self-compassion should be a priority.
Mm.
If you want to come in the other side stronger, if you want to come back to life, that should be made a priority. you know
100%, man. I
yeah.
I I agree with you immensely.